Nicholas Rowe, English dramatist, poet and miscellaneous writer, was appointed Poet Laureate of the United Kingdom in 1715. Life. Nicholas Rowe was born in Little Barford, Bedfordshire, England, son of John Rowe, barrister and sergeant-at-law, and Elizabeth, daughter of Jasper Edwards, on the 20th of June 1674. His family possessed a considerable estate at Lamerton in Devonshire. His father, John Rowe, practiced law and published Benlow's and Allison's reports during the reign of King James II. The future English poet was educated first at Highgate School, and then at Westminster School under the guidance of Dr. Busby. In 1688, Rowe became a King's Scholar, which was followed by his entrance into Middle Temple in 1691. His entrance into Middle Temple was decided upon by his father, who felt that Rowe had made sufficient progress to qualify him to study law. While at Middle Temple, he read statutes and reports with proficiency proportionate to the force of his mind, which was already such that he endeavored to comprehend law not as a series of precedents or collection of positive precepts, but as a system of rational government and impartial justice. On his father's death, when he was 19, he became the master of an independent fortune. He was left to his own direction, and from that time ignored law to try his hand first at poetry, and then later at writing plays. Rowe married first a daughter of a Mr. Parsons and left a son John. By his second wife, Anne Acute Devonish, he had a daughter Charlotte. Rowe acted as Under-Secretary to the Duke of Queensberry when he was Principal Secretary of State for Scotland. On the accession of George I, he was made a Surveyor of Customs, and in 1715 he succeeded Nahum Tate as Poet Laureate. He was also appointed Clerk of the Council to the Prince of Wales, and in 1718 was nominated by Lord Chancellor Parker as Clerk of the Presentations in Chancery. He died on 6 December 1718, and was buried in Westminster Abbey. The inscription on his tomb reads as follows: to the memory of Nicholas Rowe Esq., who died in 1718 aged 45, and of Charlotte his only daughter, the wife of Henry Fane Esq., who, inheriting her father's spirit, and amiable in her own innocence and amp beauty, died in the 22nd year of her age 1739. Thy relics, Rowe, to this sad shrine we trust, and near thy Shakespeare place thy honoured bust. O next him skill to draw the tender day, for never heartfelt passion more sincere, to nobler sentiment to fire the brave, for never Briton more disdained a slave. Peace to the gentle shade, and endless rest, blessed in thy genius, in thy love too blessed, and blessed, that timely from our scene removed thy soul enjoys that liberty it loved. To these, so mourned in death, so loved in life, the childless parent and amp, the widowed wife with tears inscribes this monument stone, that holds their ashes and amp expects her own. Upon his death his widow received a pension from George I in 1719 in recognition of her husband's translation of Lucan. This verse translation, or rather paraphrase of the Pharsalia, was called by Samuel Johnson one of the greatest productions in English poetry, and was widely read, running through 8 editions between 1718 and 1807. Works: The Ambitious Stepmother, Rowe's first play, produced in 1700 at Lincoln's Inn Fields by Thomas Batterton and set in Persepolis, was well received. This was followed in 1701 by Tamerlane. In this play the Conqueror Timur represented William III, and Louis XIV has denounced his bargery. It was for many years regularly acted on the anniversary of William's landing at Torbay. in Dublin in 1712, at a time when political passions were running high. The performance provoked a serious riot. The Fair Penitent, an adaptation of Messenger and Field's The Fatal Duary, was pronounced by Dr. Johnson as one of the most pleasing tragedies ever written in English. In it occurs the famous character of Lothario, whose name passed into current use as the equivalent of a rake. Callista is said to have suggested to Samuel Richardson the character of Clarissa Harlowe, as Lothario suggested Lovelace. Samuel Johnson noted of The Fair Penitent that the story is domestic, and therefore easily received by the imagination, and assimilated to common life. The diction is exquisitely harmonious, and soft or sprightly as occasion requires. In 1704, Rowe tried his hand at comedy, producing The Biter at Lincoln's Inn Fields. The play is said to have amused no one except the author, and Rowe returned to tragedy in Ulysses. According to Johnson, this play was to share the fate of many such plays based on mythological heroes. As we have been too early acquainted with the poetical heroes to expect any pleasure from the revival. The royal convert dealt with the persecutions endured by Aribert, son of Hengist, and the Christian maiden Ethelinda. The story was set in England in an obscure and barbarous age. Rodogun was a tragic character, of high spirit and violent passions, yet with a wicked with a soul that would have been heroic if it had been virtuous. The tragedy of Jane Shore, professedly an imitation of Shakespeare's style, was played at Drury Lane with Mrs. Oldfield in the title role in 1714. It ran for 19 nights, and kept the stage longer than any other of Rowe's works. In the play, which consists chiefly of domestic scenes and private distress, the wife is forgiven because she repents, and the husband is honored because he forgives. The tragedy of Lady Jane Grey followed in 1715, and as this play was not successful, it was his last foray into the medium. Rowe published the first 18th-century edition of Shakespeare in 6 volumes in 1709, and is also considered the first editor of Shakespeare. His practical knowledge of the stage helped him divide the plays into scenes, with the entrances and exits of the players noted. He also normalized the spelling of names and prefixed each play with a list of the dramatis personae. This 1709 edition was also the first to be illustrated, a frontispiece engraving being provided for each play. Unfortunately, Rowe based his text on the corrupt 4th folio, a course which was followed by many later 18th-century editors who followed in his editorial footsteps. Rowe also wrote a short biography of William Shakespeare, entitled Some Account of the Life and C. of Mr. William Shakespeare. Rowe wrote occasional verses addressed to Godolphin and Halifax, adapted some of the odes of Horace to fit contemporary events, and translated the Caractère of Jean de la Bruyère and the Calipedia of Claude Quillot. He also wrote a memoir of Boileau prefixed to a translation of the Lutrin. He also wrote a version of Lucan's Pharsalia. List of major works. Poems. A poem upon the late glorious successes of Her Majesty's arms. Poems on several occasions. Miscellaneous. The verses occasioned by the honours conferred on the Right Honourable Earl of Halifax. Ode for the New Year MDCCXVI. Original plays The Ambitious Stepmother, Tamerlane, The Biter, Ulysses, The Royal Convert, The Tragedy of Jane Shore, Lady Jane Grey. Adaptations and translations. The Fair Penitent, an adaptation of Messenger and Field's The Fatal Duary. Lucan, a paraphrase of the Pharsalia. Calipedia, translation of Claude Quillot. Edited works. The works of William Shakespeare. First modern edition of the plays. Miscellaneous works. Memoir of Boileau, prefix to translation of Lutrin. Some account of the life and C. of Mr. William Shakespeare.